Hello everyone, this is our PowerPoint presentation brought to you by Team ABC, Steve Appel, Aaron Brown, and Jason Chow. The proposal to modify the early release of inmates incarcerated for nonviolent crimes, AB 109. Our executive summary. Our clients are the California State Sheriff's Association and the California Police Chiefs Association. In 2011, California passed Assembly Bill 109, or AB 109, known as Public Safety Realignment, or Realignment. The effect of this bill was to divert people convicted of certain classes of less serious felonies from the Department of Corrections, state prison, to local county jails. However, realignment does not change how things work for serious crimes, violent crimes, or sex crimes. People convicted of these offenses will still be able to be eligible for state prison. AB 109 remains the subject of significant controversy, a controversy intensified by the shooting death of Whittier police officer Keith Boyer on February 20th, 2017. As a consequence of realignment, the suspect in that case was on locally supervised probation rather than the more stringent jurisdiction of the Department of Corrections. It may be easy to say AB 109 and other legislation are working when measured against the sole goal of reducing the inmate population in prison. Numerous bills and propositions have been passed with that objective, and ultimately, none of them have been independently successful. The prison population is down, but local jail population and crime are both up. This is clearly from pushing criminals from state prisons to city jails, AB 109, letting criminals loose when the crime does not fit the new conviction reclassification mold. Disastrous results can come from a singular goal of lowering the incarceration rate. As mentioned above, the sole goal of AB 109 was to lower the inmate population in state prisons. This policy, while court-ordered, is short-sighted and has had a ripple effect in the local communities. This analysis considers three policy alternatives to mitigate the problem. 1. Maintaining the current policy, or 2. Establish an intensive supervision and swift response policy, and 3. Amend the state pretrial laws. A description of the key elements of each policy alternative follows. The policy alternatives that affect public safety should be evaluated in terms of the following policy goals: economic efficiency, social equity, and political feasibility. Some background information on AB 109. Several civil and legal issues came from California's overcrowding. This overcrowding resulted in class action lawsuits, forced health care overhaul, and a massive prisoner release. In 2009, California was ordered to release inmates to ease the overcrowding. This judicial decision was later affirmed by the United States Supreme Court in 2011. Later that same year, Governor Brown signs AB 109, beginning the largest prisoner release in the nation's history. AB 109 pushed many of the prisoners from state to local, city, and county jails. Because new sentencing continues, the reduction was not enough. Since many of the sentences were for non-violent crimes, there was a push to reclassify many of these crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. This brought about California's Proposition 47. Is AB 109 working? Previous studies point to limited increases in violent or property crimes. The problem with those studies are that they do not take into consideration the combined effects of AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57. There are indications that the results from the previous studies may no longer be holding true. As an example, a Whittier, California police officer was shot to death by a 26-year-old released inmate in 2017. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors blamed AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57 for creating additional and considerable threats to law enforcement and the public. There are other indications of increasing crime rates. In 2011, the year AB 109 was passed, violent crime in California was reported at 155,313 incidents. There have been decreases and increases in violent crime Over the next 4 years, however, the sharpest increase was in 2016, reported at 174,701 reported incidents. Violent crimes have been defined by the Federal Bureau of Investigations, or the FBI, as murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assaults. In 2011, felony arrests was reported to be at 419,914. Felony arrests experienced an increase in 2012 and 2013, but a decline commenced in 2014. The decrease in felony arrests may be attributed to the reclassification of certain felonies into misdemeanors, as Proposition 47 was passed in the same year. In 2016, reported felony arrests stood at 308,860. It is not a clear representation of crimes committed and suspects arrested, as crimes have been reclassified. It should be noted, though there was a reduction in felony arrests, there was a corresponding increase in misdemeanor arrests. Under the current policy, AB 109, newly convicted offenders without current of prior serious offenses serve their sentences in the county jail systems as opposed to the state prison system. The current policy also provides for local financial support from the state as a result of the impact on the county jail system. The Public Safety Realignment Act, or AB 109, has been touted as the cornerstone of California's solution to reduce overcrowding, costs, and recidivism. When AB 109 became law, the prison system experienced an immediate drop in the prison population. Much of this decline was experienced in the first year. Proposition 36, which reversed the three strikes law on non-serious crimes, helped to reduce the prison population. However, it wasn't until the passage of Proposition 47 that the California prison system finally met its mandate. Though the prison system experienced a significant decrease in inmate population, the county jail system experienced a significant rise. In 2014, the county jail system in California housed 82,681 inmates, which was up 15% from numbers prior to AB 109. AB 109 was enacted for prison overcrowding and the problems associated with that overcrowding. The second alternative is intensive supervision and a swift response. This alternative creates a community-based strategy to place offenders who might have gone to prison or jail under intensive supervision. This kind of approach, sometimes referred to as surveillance-focused or control-based, is premised on the deterrent effect of monitoring offender behavior closely. Intensive supervision, combined with swift and certain but short custodial punishment, has proved highly effective in managing high-risk offenders. The most widely cited program is Hawaii's Project Hope, Hawaii's Opportunity Probation with Enforcement, which showed large reductions in dirty drug tests and reoffending among high-risk drug offenders, whose supervision violations were met with short but certain punishments rather than returns to custody for long periods. Pilot studies of Project Hope model are currently being carried out across the U.S., and the project was part of the inspiration for California's policy of flash incarceration, which involves placing non-compliant offenders in jail for up to 10 days instead of seeking to revoke parole and send offenders to jail for a longer period. Policy alternative number 3. Amend state pretrial detention laws. Approximately 62% of inmates in the county jail system are awaiting trial or sentencing. If an alternative to jail can be established to address the pretrial and pre-sentencing offenders, then more beds will be available for those who have been convicted and sentenced offenders. In turn, there will be less pressure for early release for inmates. Services to assess and address the management of risk of pretrial monitoring and supervision could be implemented in order to best determine whether an offender should be monitored outside of the jail system or within the jail system. Another factor that attributes to high jail incarceration rate is the state's high bail structure. California's current median bail amount is $50,000, which is 5 times more than the rest of the nation. California's reliance on pretrial detention is a significant factor that should be modified. Related to the pretrial detention policy in California is the length of time an offender must wait for trial. By creating better incentives for faster trials, counties can expect to lower the amount of time pretrial offenders spend in jail, which would lower jail population. By limiting the practice of delaying trials by some defense attorneys, time to trial delays can be minimized. Pretrial assessments could be conducted while awaiting trial, and summaries of the results could be presented to the courts, which would speed up trials. By reducing the amount of time it takes to conduct trials, offenders will not have to wait as long to be seen in court, and thus jail populations will decrease. We assessed our three alternatives by focusing on economic efficiency, social equity, and political feasibility. The first alternative is to maintain the current policy or status quo. And from the economic efficiency standpoint, from the state perspective, the current policy trades managing the inmates in the prisons to making financial payments to the counties to house the inmates in the county jail system. Economic efficiency is excellent given the state pushes the responsibility of enforcement to the local level. The social equity. The current policy shifts the burden to house and maintain inmates and probationers from the state to the counties and the cities, good for the state and bad for counties and cities. State residents are neutral as long as their safety can be maintained. Political feasibility. The current policy meets court-ordered mandates to lower the state prison inmate population, and therefore is easy to defend politically. On the other hand, the potential increase in crime can create negative impacts on the county and city levels. The second alternative, intensive supervision and swift response. The economic efficiency. On the local level, county and city, funds would be required to arrest violators of guidelines set forth under conditions of release. There will be a financial burden placed on local jurisdictions to fund response teams. The extent of the financial burden can be quantified once a plan is solidified. Social equity. There will be fewer individuals incarcerated for nonviolent crimes, and increased supervision will help to monitor those released. There is a high probability to experience a substantial reduction in rearrest rates. The political feasibility. The responsibility is covered by local jurisdictions and will not affect state operations. Political feasibility is excellent as the state maintains a smaller prisoner population and monitoring costs are at the local levels. However, political feasibility on the local level may be less attractive as the responsibility of supervision requires funding. The third alternative, amend state pretrial laws. Economic efficiency. Incarceration costs at the state level are mitigated as fewer individuals will be processed through the prison system. Economic efficiency is high due to an existing framework. Social equity. There will be a heavier burden on the local jurisdictions, which includes the county court system. However, the costs associated with incarcerating prisoners, state-level inmates, local jurisdictions will be reduced. Political feasibility. State-level feasibility is excellent because the greatest impact will be at the local levels. Within the court system, the pretrial process is already in place and only requires an expansion of current programs or initiatives. Feasibility is excellent at the city level because the responsibility is at the county level. Our recommendation for a new policy is a combination of intensive supervision and swift response with amend state pretrial laws. Also, with the added idea of a choice architecture. And within choice architecture, we choose to use availability heuristic in how it relates to the expectation of experiencing effects gauged against examples that individual can readily recall. This will apply to voting on the state level, county, and city levels. This is key to reform. People must receive communication that tells them that this likelihood has increased because of the failings of AB 109. Nudges will be used to persuade voters to amend AB 109, and the tactics can be used to push alternatives forward. presenting an almost tangible but recent example of the consequences of early release will drive voters in the right direction. This, in turn, may persuade elected officials to support alternatives at the state and local levels. This has been our analysis of the proposal to modify the early release of inmates incarcerated for nonviolent crimes associated with AB 109. Thanks for your attention.